Imagine a movie so unsettling that it stays with you long after the credits roll. A film that doesn't just scare you, but crawls under your skin and refuses to leave. I'm talking about The Substance, a masterclass in body horror by Coralie Fargeat. With an impressive 90% fresh score on Rotten Tomatoes and a strong 7.5 on IMDb, it's no wonder this film is being hailed as one of the best horror experiences of the year. In this video, we'll break down its spine-chilling story, explore its jaw-dropping ending, and uncover the eerie themes that make this movie a must-watch. But before we dive into the grotesque brilliance of The Substance, I have one request. Hit that like button and subscribe to the channel to stay tuned for more thrilling content. Alright, let's get started. At the start of the movie, we see a short experiment clip where a green liquid is poured into an egg yolk. This causes the yolk to split and form a new yolk. Remember this scene. It's super important later. The scene then shifts to the Hollywood Walk of Fame, where a new star tile is being unveiled with the name Elizabeth. For context, in Hollywood, when a famous actor or actress is honored, they get their name on a star on the Walk of Fame. That's what happens here. But the story quickly fast-forwards, showing how Elizabeth's fame has faded over time. The once pristine star with her name is now cracked and dirty, symbolizing her declining popularity. Next, we meet Elizabeth, who now hosts a fitness show on TV. We can tell that in her prime, Elizabeth was incredibly beautiful, but now her age is showing, and her looks are fading. One day, after wrapping up a shoot, Elizabeth heads to the restroom. Along the way, people wish her a happy birthday. However, when she reaches the women's restroom, it's out of order, so she goes into the men's restroom instead. At the same time, the channel producer, Harvey, walks into the restroom. Elizabeth quickly hides in a stall. While on the phone, Harvey bluntly says he needs a fresh, younger face for the show. He even mocks Elizabeth, pointing out that she's now 50 and claiming no one wants to watch her anymore. Elizabeth overhears every word, and it breaks her heart. Later, we see Elizabeth and Harvey at a restaurant, where Harvey officially fires her from the show, saying he needs someone younger. It's clear her career is hitting rock bottom. To make things worse, as Elizabeth drives home, she notices her massive billboard being taken down. Distracted by the sight, she ends up in an accident. The scene shifts to the hospital, where the doctors tell Elizabeth that all her tests came back normal. One doctor mentions that his wife is a huge fan of hers, but instead of cheering her up, this makes Elizabeth cry. The doctor's assistant, noticing her sadness, tries to console her, but after the doctor leaves, the assistant unexpectedly checks Elizabeth's spine and cryptically calls her a good candidate. Elizabeth is confused and notices a strange black mark on his hand. After being discharged, Elizabeth steps outside the hospital and feels something in her coat pocket. She finds a note that reads, "It changed my life," along with a pen drive labeled The Substance. It seems like the nurse must have slipped it into her pocket. Later, Elizabeth meets Fred, an old friend from high school. He's thrilled to see her after so many years and gives her his number. After catching up briefly, Elizabeth heads back home. The story skips ahead a few days. Elizabeth is visibly upset, sitting at home and staring at a farewell bouquet on her table. Clearly, her time on the show is officially over. While sulking, she remembers the pen drive. Curious, she plugs it into her TV. The drive plays an advertisement for a company selling The Substance, a product promising to create a younger, better version of yourself. The ad explains that users can trade lives with someone else each week, but there's one strict rule: they can't escape their original forms. Elizabeth dismisses it as ridiculous and throws the pen drive away. That night, we see her drinking at a bar. She feels a sting of jealousy watching a happy young couple. Back at home, she lets her frustration out, throwing things around in a rage. It's clear she's deeply hurt by how forgotten she feels. Once adored and recognized everywhere, Elizabeth now finds herself irrelevant and invisible. Her fame and beauty have faded, and no one is offering her roles anymore. Desperate to reclaim her former glory, Elizabeth remembers the pen drive and starts frantically searching for it. She finds the number on it and calls to order The Substance. A voice on the other end gives her an address and abruptly hangs up. The next morning, Elizabeth reads the newspaper and sees a casting ad for her replacement on her old show. Furious and heartbroken, she knows she has to take drastic action, meaning someone else is being cast for her part. Naturally, Elizabeth gets very angry. She then notices an email from the Substance Company and opens it to find a keycard inside. She takes the card and goes to the address provided that night. Using the card, she opens a shed and finds several lockers. She collects her order from a locker with the number written on the card. The scene then shifts to Elizabeth at home, where she opens a box containing an Activate stabilizer and switch kit. Inside, there are liquid food packets and instructions that Elizabeth carefully reads. The instructions are very important. First, she needs to use the Activate for a single use. then stabilize herself every day. This process will create a younger version of herself. After every week, they must switch. The last card reminds her not to forget that both versions are the same person. Elizabeth decides to use the kit without wasting any time. She stands in front of the bathroom mirror, feeling insecure about her current body, and injects the Activate into her body. At first, there are no visible changes, but then Elizabeth feels intense pain, so much that she falls to the ground and starts convulsing. Suddenly, something shifts under her skin, and Elizabeth can't move. We see her eyes split, and her back opens, revealing a new body emerging. This new body, now young and beautiful, checks herself out in the mirror. The new version of Elizabeth then stretches. She stitches Eliza's wounds and starts to administer the liquid food drip into her body. We notice that the old Elizabeth is still alive, but seems to be in a kind of hibernation. Now there are two versions of Elizabeth, one young and beautiful, and one old, as seen earlier in the movie. Anyway, after taking a shower, young Eliza tries to speak in front of the mirror. Suddenly, she starts feeling sharp pain in her ears and notices blood coming out of her nose. She quickly remembers the stabilizer kit and uses it to extract a fluid-like substance from her body, storing it in the provided container. The kit includes separate containers for 7 days, and she needs to inject this fluid into her body every day to remain stable. If she doesn't, she'll start feeling sick and weak. What would happen after that? Well, we can't say for sure right now. We then see her injecting the fluid into her body, and she starts feeling fine again. The scene now shifts to Eliza's new version, who has started living her life. In fact, she even goes to audition for a show originally meant for Eliza. There, she introduces herself as Sue. The casting director is already impressed by her beautiful physique because that's all that mattered to him. Then, Harvey meets Sue and hires her on the spot. He explains the shooting schedule, but Sue lies, saying she has to visit her doctor every week because of an illness. This lie was necessary because, as per the instructions, the new Eliza and the old Eliza had to switch weekly. From now on, I'll refer to the new Eliza as Sue to avoid confusion. Coming back to the story, Harvey agrees to all of Sue's terms because he's desperate to make her the new face of his show. In just a few days, Sue becomes quite popular. We even see a massive billboard of her in front of her house. A week passes, and Sue uses the switch kit. Once their blood is exchanged, we see Eliza start moving again while Sue enters a hibernation state. Eliza is happy to see her new body and gives it liquid food to consume. Now that the original Eliza is back, she meets Harvey at his studio, where he returns all her belongings and gives her a recipe book as a farewell gift. Eliza isn't pleased with this at all. Harvey's behavior makes it clear that he only cares about his show's ratings and doesn't really value anything else. As long as the actress is young, beautiful, and bold enough for the screen, he doesn't care who it is. Anyway, Eliza returns home and marks the weeks on a calendar for her and Sue. She then spends the entire week watching TV and only leaves the house to refill the substance. Yes, they have to keep refilling it frequently. Once the week is complete, the switch happens again, and Sue returns. Sue notices the condition of the couch and the TV and realizes that Eliza hasn't done anything all week. Seeing Eliza's body lying in the bathroom, Sue gets the idea to create a secret closet. She places Eliza's body and the living room poster in the closet. Later, we see Sue performing at the studio, impressing everyone with her performance. One night, Sue gets ready for a party. She decides she doesn't want to switch anytime soon and wants more time in her younger version. To achieve this, she slows down the drip in the switch kit. That night, Sue brings a guy home, and they become intimate. However, Sue starts feeling sick because it's time for the switch. Not wanting to switch yet, she decides to use the stabilizer to buy herself extra time. Sue extracts additional fluid from Eliza's body and injects it into herself. She returns to the guy, who compliments her, saying she looks even more beautiful than before. The next morning, we see Eliza emerge from the closet and find the house in a messy state, leaving her shocked. She notices a note on the window addressed to Sue from a guy named Troy. As she goes to grab the note, she notices her fingers, which now look like they belong to an extremely old woman. Panicking, she checks her back and realizes Sue has extracted more fluid from her body. Eliza immediately calls the substance company to report the issue. The person on the other end of the phone says that if one body uses extra fluid, the other body will have to pay for it. This means if Sue uses extra body fluid, Eliza's body will not be able to recover due to the lack of fluid, and Eliza's body parts will age rapidly. This is why the weekly cycle was made, which must be followed perfectly to live this double life. The person on the phone then reminds Eliza that they are the same person, meaning they need to maintain balance. After hearing this, Eliza angrily starts cleaning the house and watches Sue's show on TV. Eliza looks at Sue's body and feels jealous. She turns off the TV. From this scene, we understand that what Eliza thought did not happen. She wanted a new version of herself to regain fame and popularity. Eliza is getting this, but But it is Sue's body that's benefiting. Eliza becomes jealous of Sue. Even though they are the same person, they are seeing each other as separate. In the next scene, we see Eliza going to pick up a refill kit. On the way, she feels insecure about her body. While collecting a box from the locker, she hears a voice, gets scared, and runs to a nearby cafe. In the cafe, an old man tries to talk to Eliza, and Eliza notices that he has the same black mark on his hand as she does. In fact, the man also had a keycard just like hers. This realization dawns on Eliza that the old man is actually the assistant from the hospital. He tells Eliza that every time they switch, they will feel lonelier. And over time, it will seem like their other self is better. Eliza gets scared and runs away. The man shouts, asking if her other self has started eating, referring to the extra fluid used, which causes the original body to age rapidly. Eliza runs into Troy and goes home, looking for Fred's number. She calls him to meet up, showing that she feels jealous of Sue and Troy and wants someone to love her. That evening, Eliza prepares to meet Fred, but becomes insecure after seeing Sue's body. She tries to apply makeup like Sue, but fails, becoming frustrated. She becomes so insecure that she doesn't go to meet Fred. She then watches TV. The next week, Sue wakes up from a nightmare. This is a common theme in the movie where switching bodies causes nightmares. In Sue's nightmare, she sees a chicken piece coming out of her body. Since this is a body horror movie, these nightmares are possibly showing the horror scenes. Anyway, Sue gets up and sees the food spread in the living room, which makes her angry. She calls the company and complains about Eliza, saying that they are not coordinating. She works all week, and Eliza just eats, watches TV, and lies around. The person on the phone repeats the same thing. You are both the same. Sue gets angry and hangs up. Then we see her on the set of her show, but no one is there. When Sue asks, a staff member tells her that the shooting has been canceled. Sue is confused. And then Harvey calls her. He tells her that Sue has doubled the show's ratings and offers her to host the biggest live show on his network. Sue is excited to hear this. Harvey warns her that her schedule will be very tight, but Sue doesn't want to miss this opportunity and agrees. As shooting continues, Sue doesn't switch bodies and keeps using Eliza's body fluid. We see Sue becoming more selfish, clearly showing that even though they are connected, their lives have become completely different. They no longer like each other. When they switch again, Eliza screams in anger because half of her body has aged and her hair is turning gray. This happens because Sue used too much fluid and spent more time than necessary. Eliza calls the company and tells them about Sue's actions. The person on the phone asks if she wants to stop it, warning her that she won't be able to return to her old self. Eliza refuses and hangs up. We notice that Eliza's body and mind are deteriorating. When she feels hungry, she remembers the recipe book Harvey gave her and starts cooking. Then she notices a TV show where Sue is being interviewed. When the host asks Sue about Eliza, she mocks her. Eliza becomes furious and starts throwing eggs and covers the window with newspapers so she doesn't have to see Sue's billboard. She has become very jealous of Sue's fame. This jealousy has made Eliza mentally unstable. The next week, when Sue comes home, she finds the house in a terrible state. She gets angry and decides she will no longer switch with Eliza. Sue takes a lot of fluid from Eliza's body and stores it in containers. The story jumps 3 months later. We see Sue's new show being advertised, and she's very excited. She's with Troy at home and prepares to go to bed. Before sleeping, she takes more fluid from Eliza's body to avoid any problems the next day. Sue notices that the fluid has turned to blood, and she feels sick. She calls the company and explains that she has used all of Eliza's fluid and it has stopped regenerating. The person on the phone tells her that she has no choice but to switch bodies. Sue's condition worsens, and she crawls to Eliza, switching bodies. When Eliza wakes up and sees herself in the mirror, she is shocked to find that she is completely aged and looks like a creature. Meanwhile, Troy comes looking for her, but Eliza screams at him and he runs away in fear. Eliza's hatred for Sue has grown so much that she decides to stop this whole situation. She calls the company for a termination kit, goes to pick it up the next day, and returns home. She drags Sue's body out of the bathroom into the living room and injects the black liquid from the kit into Sue's heart. The termination kit does its job and everything ends. Eliza realizes that Sue's biggest show is the next day. Out of greed for fame, she decides to stay and tries to wake Sue, who is unresponsive. Eliza attempts CPR and, in desperation, injects the switch needle directly into Sue's heart. Sue wakes up, but this time, Eliza is conscious too. Both are shocked to see each other awake. Sue notices the termination kit and realizes Eliza tried to kill her. Furious, Sue attacks Eliza, who tries to escape. Being younger and stronger, Sue brutally kills Eliza. She realizes she is part of Elise. However, Sue's obsession with her career takes precedence as she prepares for her show. Sue notices her teeth falling out, panic-stricken. She decides to create another version of herself using the Activate serum left left at home. Sue on way at home, but in middle Harvey stop her, and he try to show all his investors face of evening, and he tell her pretty girls should always be smiling, and he forces to smile, and Sue smiles while hitting her fallen teeth, and after she goes towards lift while pressing the lift floor button, her nails start breaking. Sue gets scared. After seeing her nails peeling, in fact, her one ear gets separated from her head and falls into her hand, her body getting degradable. Because Eliza is dead, without her, she ceased to exist. Next scene, she come home search activator. Despite warnings that it can only be used once, she injects herself, same process repeat of leading to the new cell generation. New version mixer of Sue and Eliza, which is hybrid, part Sue and part Eliza. Sue's deformed body terrifies her, but she still proceeds to her show, covering her face with Eliza's cutout. Sue goes on the stage, when everyone was waiting for her, but as the crowd sees Sue's true face and reacts with fear, she tries to convince them she is Sue they love. Suddenly, one person hit with something hard which cuts off her head, her still body generating more face. While seeing this, Sue and Eliza both get scared. Then from Sue's hand large amount blood came out, which make all people start getting completely drenched. After Eliza's face crawls out of the remains, try go away from that, but she can't go further. At one point, Sue falls, her body shatters into pieces. Sue's body start melting, and suddenly we see Eliza's face came out from that. Eliza crawls to her walk of fame. She goes to the tile, and we see spotlight on her. Eliza's smile finally accepts her fate. The movie ends with a cleaner removing bloodstains from Eliza's walk of fame tile, highlighting how life moves on in the entertainment industry. The narrative is rich with hidden meanings and social commentary. It critiques the entertainment industry's obsession with youth and beauty, particularly for female actresses, contrasting it with the prolonged relevance of male actors. Harvey's character embodies the industry's exploitation and double standards. The movie offers no resolution to these issues, instead emphasizing the cyclical nature of such societal pressures. Eliza's insecurity about aging drives her to experiment with mysterious substances, paralleling real-life plastic surgery and cosmetic enhancements prevalent in the industry. Her mental struggle, symbolized by the hybrid form, represents the conflict between accepting one's reality and the pursuit of an unattainable ideal. Ultimately, the movie portrays this pursuit as destructive, with both Sue and Eliza unable to coexist, leading to their mutual demise. Whether viewed literally or as a metaphor for the psychological toll of seeking perpetual youth, the substance delivers a powerful message about self-acceptance and the price of societal expectations.